The first day was bad. The second day was worse. By the end of the first week, Yuna had bruises on her arms, scratches on her legs, and a long cut across her cheek that the medical droids had sealed with special glue. But she was still alive. And that was more than anyone had expected. Every morning, Yuna woke up at the same time. She ate a small breakfast of rice and vegetables, the food from Earth that she still missed after years of living in space. Then she put on her research coat, checked her reflection in the mirror, and walked to Observation Chamber 12. The containment unit was always cold. The Carax came from a cold planet, a world of ice and stone where the sun was small and weak. The Academy had tried to make the unit feel like home, with low temperatures and dim lighting. But it still looked like a prison. Metal walls, metal floor, a small drain in the corner for waste. Nothing soft, nothing warm. Inside the unit. The cub waited for her. Yuna had started calling it Baram in her research notes. The word meant wind in Korean, the old language of her ancestors. She had chosen the name because of how fast the cub could move. One moment it would be in one corner. The next moment it would be in another corner, faster than her eyes could follow. Like wind, like a shadow. Baram did not like her. Every time Yuna entered the containment unit, the cub would hiss at her. It would flatten its ears against its skull and show its teeth. Its spines would rise up like the quills of an angry porcupine. Sometimes it would swipe at her with its claws, leaving deep marks in the air where her face had been a second before, but it never actually hit her. Not once. Yuna had noticed this on the third day. Baram was fast enough to kill her before she could even see the attack coming. But it never did. It threatened. It warned. It scared her. But it did not hurt her. At least, not on purpose. "This is very strange," said Yumbi, watching from the observation deck above the containment unit. Eunbi was a Tellurian, a species that looked like a mixture of an octopus and a jellyfish. She had 8 long tentacles and a body that glowed with soft blue light. She was the Academy's expert on animal behavior, and she had been watching Yuna and Baram for the past week. "What is strange?" Yuna asked. She was sitting on the floor of the containment unit, her back against the wall. A piece of raw meat sat on a plate about 3 meters in front of her, close enough for Baram to reach, far enough to give the cub space. "The cub should have killed you by now," Umbi said. Her voice came through a small speaker in the wall. With every other species, the attack came within the first hour. The Carax are designed to kill. It is what they do. But this one, it is holding back. Maybe it is tired, Yuna said. Carax do not get tired. Not like that. Yumbi's tentacles curled in confusion. It is almost like it is testing you, trying to see what you will do. Yuna did not answer. She was watching Baram from the corner of her eye. The cub was in the far corner of the unit, pressed against the wall. Its amber eyes were locked on her face. Watching, always watching. She understood something that Yumbi did not. Baram was not testing her. Baram was waiting to see if she would come back. All its life, Baram had known only one truth. Everything was either predator or prey. Things that were stronger than you tried to kill you. Things that were weaker than you ran away. There was no middle ground. There was no kindness. There was no love. But Yuna did not fit into either category. She was weaker than Baram, much weaker. But she did not run away. She came back every day, at the same time, with the same calm face. She brought food. She sat on the floor. She did not try to hurt Baram. She did not try to capture it or control it. She just stayed. This confused Baram. Yuna could see it in the cub's eyes. Every day, the confusion grew a little deeper. Every day, the cub's attacks became a little less fierce. Every day, Baram watched her a little more closely. On the 8th day, something changed. Yuna entered the containment unit as usual. She placed the meat on the plate. She sat down against the wall. She waited. Barham hissed at her, but the sound was softer than before. The cub's spines rose, but only halfway. It watched her for a long time, its amber eyes burning in the dim light. Then, slowly, it moved. Yuna held her breath. The cub was walking toward her. Not running, not attacking, just walking, one careful step at a time. Its eyes never left her face. It stopped at the plate of meat. For a moment, it just stood there, looking at the food. Then it looked at Yuna. And then, for the first time, it ate. Yuna felt tears prick at her eyes. She did not move. She did not speak. She just watched as Barham ate the meat she had brought. When the cub was finished, it did something even more surprising. It sat down not far away. Not in the corner. It sat down about 2 meters from Yuna, close enough that she could see the individual hairs in its black fur. Close enough that she could hear it breathing. "Yumbi," Yuna whispered. "Are you seeing this?" "I am seeing it," Yumbi replied. Her voice was shaking. "But I do not believe it." Barham tilted its head, looking at Yuna with those bright amber eyes. Its ears were no longer flat against its skull. They were up and forward, pointing toward her. Curious, alert. Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, just a slight curve of her lips. But Barham saw it. The cub made a sound. Not a hiss, not a growl. Something else. Something softer. It sounded almost like a question. "Hello, Barham," Yuna said quietly. "It is nice to finally meet you." The cub tilted its head the other way. It made the questioning sound again. Yuna laughed. The sound was bright and warm in the cold containment unit. Barham's ears twitched at the noise, but it did not run away. It did not attack. It just watched. And listened. From that day on, everything was different. Barham still hissed sometimes. It still showed its teeth when Yuna moved too fast or got too close. But the attacks stopped completely. The cub began to eat from the plate every day. And then it began to sit near Yuna after it finished. On the 12th day, Barham ate from Yuna's hand. On the 15th day, Barham let Yuna touch its fur. On the 20th day, Yuna walked into the containment unit and found Barham waiting for her by the door. Not hiding in the corner, not pressed against the far wall. Waiting, like it had been looking forward to seeing her. "Impossible," Umbi said, her tentacles twisting in amazement. "This should not be possible. The Carracks do not bond. They do not form attachments. They are solitary predators." But Yuna knew the truth. The Carracks were not incapable of bonding. They had just never had anyone who was willing to try. On Earth, humans had learned long ago that even the wildest animals could become friends if you gave them enough time and patience. Dogs had once been wolves. Cats had once been wild hunters. Humans had tamed them not through force, but through kindness, through showing up every day, through proving that they could be trusted. That was what Yuna was doing. She was not taming Barham. She was not controlling it. She was just showing up. Every day. No matter what. And slowly, bit by bit, the deadliest creature in the known galaxy was beginning to understand something new. Something it had never learned before. It was learning what it felt like to not be alone. On the 21st day, Yuna sat in the containment unit with Barham curled up beside her. The cub's head was resting on her leg, its amber eyes half closed. Its breathing was slow and steady. It was sleeping. Beside her, trusting her to keep it safe, Yuna put her hand on Barham's back, feeling the warmth of its fur beneath her fingers. She was careful to avoid the spines, which were flat against its body now, relaxed and harmless. "Sleep well, little one," she whispered. "I will be here when you wake up." Baram made a sound. That soft sound again. The one that was not a hiss or a growl, Dodd. It sounded almost like a purr. 3 months passed. The cold metal containment unit had changed. Una had brought soft blankets and placed them in the corners. She had added a large cushion near the door where Baram liked to wait for her. She had even hung a small light that changed colors slowly, from blue to purple to pink. Baram loved to watch it. The cub had grown. When Una first met Baram, it had been the size of a large cat. Now it was the size of a big dog, with longer legs and a wider chest. Its black fur had become thicker and shinier. Its amber eyes glowed brighter. It was becoming beautiful in a way that was also terrifying. But to Una, Baram was just Baram, her strange, wonderful, impossible friend. News had spread across the academy. Then it had spread beyond the academy, to other stations, to other planets, to the far corners of the galaxy. A human had bonded with a Carix. A human was raising the most dangerous predator in the known universe, like it was a pet. Except it was not like a pet at all, Dodd. YUNA tried to explain this to the visitors who came to watch. There were many visitors now. Ambassadors from distant worlds. Scientists who had studied predators for hundreds of years. Reporters who wanted to capture images of the impossible creature and its human caretaker. They all asked the same questions. How did you tame it? What is your secret? How do you control it? And Una always gave the same answer. I did not tame it. There is no secret. I do not control it. No one believed her. One day, a delegation from the Velanari arrived. The Velanari were an ancient species, tall and thin, with skin that glowed with soft bioluminescent light. They had once ruled a vast empire that stretched across 100 star systems. Then the Carix had come. In less than 50 years, the Carix had destroyed everything. The Velanari home world was now a dead rock floating in space. Their empire was gone. Only a few million of them remained, scattered across the galaxy like leaves in the wind. They hated the Carix. They had hated them for 10,000 years. The leader of the delegation was named Sovan. He was old, even for a Velanari, with skin that flickered between blue and gray. His eyes were cold as he watched Una and Baram through the observation window. You keep a monster as a companion, he said. His voice was flat, without emotion. Do you not know what these creatures have done? Do you not know how many billions have died because of them? Una stood beside the window, her hand resting on the glass. Inside the containment unit, Baram was playing with a ball that Una had given it. The cub would push the ball across the floor, then chase it, then push it again. It looked happy. It looked like any young creature playing a simple game. I know what the Carix have done, Una said. But Baram has not done those things. Baram is just a cub. It did not choose to be born a Carix. It does not matter, Sovan said. The nature of a creature cannot be changed. The Carix are killers. They will always be killers. One day, your pet will turn on you. It will tear out your throat and eat your heart. This is what they do. Una turned to look at him. Her eyes were calm, but there was something hard underneath. Something strong. Have you ever actually met a Carix? She asked. Not fought one. Not watched one from far away. Have you ever sat with one? Talked to one? Tried to understand what it thinks and feels. Sovan's light flickered with anger. I do not need to understand them. I need only to destroy them, as they destroyed us. And how is that working out for you? Una asked softly. 10,000 years of hate. 10,000 years of trying to destroy them. Are you any happier? Are your people any safer? Or are you just tired and angry and alone? Sovan did not answer. His light flickered faster, cycling through colors that Una did not recognize. Then He turned and walked away, his delegation following behind him like shadows. Yuna watched them go. She felt sad, but not surprised. She had met many people like Sovan since she started working with Bahram. People who were so full of hate that they could not see anything else. People who had been hurt so badly that they wanted the whole universe to hurt with them. She understood. She really did. But she could not change them. She could only show them a different way and hope that someday they would be ready to see it. Inside the containment unit, Bahram had stopped playing. The cub was standing at the glass, looking at Yuna with those bright amber eyes. Its ears were forward. Its head was tilted slightly to the side, that it had felt her sadness. Somehow, it always knew when she was sad. Yuna pressed her hand against the glass. Bahram pressed its nose against the glass on the other side, right where her hand was. "I'm okay," Yuna said softly. "Just thinking about hard things." Bahram made a sound. That soft, questioning sound that it always made when it did not understand something. Yuna smiled. "Come on, let me in. I think we both need some company." She walked to the door of the containment unit and entered the code. The door slid open and she stepped inside. Bahram was on her immediately. Not attacking, just pressing against her, pushing its big body against her legs, rubbing its head against her hip. Its spines were flat against its back, completely relaxed. Its tail swept back and forth across the floor. Yuna laughed and knelt down, wrapping her arms around Bahram's neck. The cub was so big now that she could barely reach all the way around. Its fur was warm and soft, and it smelled like rain and something else. Something wild. "I love you," she whispered into its fur. "You know that, right? I love you so much." Bahram made a sound. Not a question this time. Something else. Something deeper. A rumble that started in its chest and spread through its whole body. A sound that no one had ever heard a Carex make before. It was purring. Really, truly purring. Yuna held her friend close and let the sound wash over her. In that moment, she did not think about the visitors or the ambassadors or the reporters. She did not think about the Velinari and their 10,000 years of hate. She did not think about the scientists who said that what she had done was impossible. She just thought about Bahram, about this strange, beautiful, misunderstood creature that the universe had called a monster. Maybe the universe was wrong. Maybe the universe had always been wrong about the Carex. Maybe all they had ever needed was someone who was willing to see past the teeth and the claws and the killing instinct. Someone who was willing to look into their eyes and see the scared, lonely creature hiding underneath. Someone who was willing to stay. That night, Yuna did not go back to her quarters. She stayed in the containment unit, lying on the soft blankets with Bahram curled up beside her. The cub's head was resting on her stomach, heavy and warm. Its eyes were closed. Its breathing was slow and steady. Outside the window, the stars burned in the darkness of space. Billions of stars, each one holding countless planets, each planet holding countless beings. And somewhere out there, on 1,000 different worlds, people were still afraid of the Carex. They were still telling stories about the monsters who had destroyed civilizations. They were still teaching their children to hate Dot, but here, in this small room, a human and a Carex slept side by side. Not predator and prey. Not monster and victim. Just two beings who had found each other in the darkness. Two lonely souls who had learned that they did not have to be alone anymore. Yuna smiled in her sleep. Bahram's tail twitched, chasing something in a dream, and the stars kept burning, patient and eternal, watching over them both. The Grand Assembly was the most important event in the galaxy. It happened only once every 10 cycles, when representatives from every species in the Galactic Compact gathered together in one place. They came to discuss peace and war, trade and treaties, the future of 1,000 civilizations. This cycle, the assembly was being held on Station Korth 7, and the Council of Elders had made a very unusual request. They wanted Yuna to bring Barham. "This is crazy," said Do-hwan, pacing back and forth in Yuna's quarters. Do-hwan was another human researcher at the academy, a tall man with kind eyes and worried hands that never stopped moving. He had become Yuna's closest friend over the past 6 months. You cannot take a Carax into a room full of species that hate the Carax. Some of them have been waiting 10,000 years for revenge. What if they try to hurt Barham? "They will not hurt Barham," Yuna said calmly. She was standing in front of a mirror, brushing her hair. Barham was lying on the floor behind her, watching her reflection with curious eyes. The cub was huge now, almost as tall as Yuna when it stood on all 4 legs. Its black fur gleamed in the light. Its amber eyes glowed like small fires. "How do you know they will not hurt it?" Do-hwan demanded. "Because I will be there." Yuna put down the brush and turned to face him. "And because this is important, Do-hwan. The galaxy needs to see that the Carax are not just monsters. They need to see that things can change. That fear does not have to be the only answer." Do-hwan stopped pacing. He looked at Yuna for a long moment, then sighed. "You really believe that, do you not? You really believe you can change how the entire galaxy thinks about the most dangerous predators in existence?" "I do not want to change how they think," Yuna said. "I just want them to see. Really see. After that, they can decide for themselves." Do-hwan shook his head, but he was smiling a little now. "You are the strangest human I have ever met." "Thank you," Yuna said. "I think that is a compliment." Behind her, Barham stood up and walked over. The cub pressed its head against Yuna's hand, asking for attention. Yuna scratched behind its ears, finding the soft spots between the spines. Barham made that deep rumbling sound that meant it was happy. "It trusts you completely," Do-hwan said quietly. "I have watched you two for months, and I still do not fully understand it. The Carax are supposed to be incapable of forming bonds. Every scientific text says so." "Maybe the texts are wrong," Yuna said. "Maybe the Carax just needed someone who would not give up on them." The day of the Grand Assembly arrived. The Great Hall was the largest room on the station, a vast space that could hold thousands of beings. Seats rose up on all sides like the inside of a bowl, and every seat was filled. There were Sylphine with their color-changing scales, Bravani with their many eyes, Tellurians glowing in shades of blue and green, Velinari flickering with cold light, and hundreds of other species, each one different, each one watching. Yuna stood at the entrance to the hall with Barham at her side. The cub was tense. It could feel the fear in the room, the hatred, the anger. Every species in that hall was releasing chemicals into the air, and Barham could smell all of it. "Easy," Yuna whispered, placing her hand on Barham's shoulder. "I am here. It is okay. We are going to do this together." Barham looked up at her. Its amber eyes were wide and bright. It was scared, Yuna realized. Not of the crowd. Of disappointing her. Of doing something wrong. Her heart broke a little. "You can never disappoint me," she said softly. "No matter what happens in there, I am proud of you. I am so proud of you." Barham pressed against her side. Its tail wrapped around her legs, holding her close. The doors opened. Together, they walked into the hall. The silence was immediate, it was not the silence of an empty room. It was the opposite. It was the silence of thousands of beings, all holding their breath at the same time. The silence of shock and fear and disbelief. Yuna walked down the center aisle with Barham beside her. She did not look at the crowd. She kept her eyes forward, her back straight, her hand resting on Barham's shoulder. She could feel the cub trembling slightly, but it did not run. It did not hide. It trusted her. They reached the center of the hall, where a raised platform waited for speakers. Yuna climbed the steps, and Bahram climbed with her. When they reached the top, they turned to face the crowd. Thousands of eyes stared back at them. Some were filled with fear. Some were filled with anger. Some were filled with something else, something that might have been curiosity. The silence continued. No one knew what to say. No one knew what to do. This had never happened before. In all the history of the Galactic Compact, no Carracks had ever stood in the Grand Assembly. They had always been enemies, monsters, nightmares. Never this. Never standing calmly beside a human, looking out at the crowd with bright, intelligent eyes. Then something happened that changed everything. Bahram looked at Yuna. It tilted its head to the side, the way it always did when it was thinking about something. Then it opened its mouth. The Carracks were not supposed to be able to speak. They communicated through chemicals and body language and the vibration of their spines. They had mouths that could form sounds, but they had never used them for language. They had never needed to. But Bahram had been listening to Yuna talk for 6 months. Every day, every night, Yuna had spoken to the cub. She had told it stories. She had explained things. She had sung songs from Earth. Old Korean songs that her grandmother had taught her before she died. And Bahram had been listening, learning, trying to understand. The sound came out rough and strange, like rocks scraping together. The word was not perfect. It was barely recognizable. But it was there. Mama. The hall went completely still. The silence was so deep that Yuna could hear her own heartbeat. She could hear Bahram's breathing. She could hear nothing else. Then she understood what had happened. What Bahram had done. Tears filled her eyes. She did not try to stop them. She did not care that thousands of beings were watching. She did not care about the cameras, or the reporters, or the ambassadors from 100 worlds. She dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around Bahram's neck. The cub pressed against her, making that deep rumbling sound, its tail sweeping back and forth. "I am here," Yuna whispered, her voice breaking. "Mama is here. I will always be here." In the Grand Assembly Hall, something was changing. The fear was still there. The anger was still there. But something else was growing alongside them. Something that had been buried under 10,000 years of hatred and pain. Wonder. Simple, pure wonder. They were watching a monster speak its first word. They were watching an apex predator, a creature born to kill, calling a human mother. They were watching something that every textbook, every scientist, every piece of evidence said was impossible, and they were beginning to understand that maybe they had been wrong. About the Carracks, about predators and prey, about the nature of love itself. The Velinary delegation was in the front row. Sovin, the old ambassador, was staring at Yuna and Bahram with his cold eyes. His skin was flickering rapidly, cycling through colors that had no names. For the first time in 10,000 years, a Velinari was looking at a Carracks and feeling something other than hate. He did not have a word for what he was feeling. His people had forgotten such words long ago. But it was there, burning in his chest like a small, unfamiliar flame. It felt like hope. On the platform, Yuna held Bahram close and let her tears fall. She did not need to say anything else. She did not need to explain or defend or persuade. Bahram had done it for her. With one word. With one simple, impossible word. Mama. The silence in the Grand Assembly finally broke. Not with anger or screaming or violence, but with whispers. Thousands of whispers, spreading through the crowd like ripples in water. The galaxy had seen something new today. Something it had never seen before. And nothing would ever be quite the same again. 3 years had passed since the day Bahram spoke in the Grand Assembly. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The video of that moment had spread to every corner of known space within hours. A Carax cub saying "Mama" to a human. A monster looking at its caretaker with eyes full of love. An apex predator pressing against a small human woman as if she was the most important thing in the universe. Scientists had called it impossible. Philosophers had called it a miracle. Millions of ordinary beings across thousands of worlds had watched the video and felt something shift inside them. Something old and heavy, like a wall that had stood for too long. And now, 3 years later, the Carax Rehabilitation Project was the largest interspecies program in galactic compact history. Yuna stood in the control room of the new facility, watching the monitors that covered the wall in front of her. Each monitor showed a different room. In each room, a human was working with a Carax. Some of the Carax were cubs, small and curious. Some were juveniles, awkward and growing. A few were adults, enormous and powerful, learning for the first time that they did not have to be alone. Doan walked up beside her, holding 2 cups of tea. He handed one to Yuna, and she took it gratefully. 47 active bonds, he said, reading from a datapad. 12 more in progress. And we have requests from 3 new species who want to learn our methods. Our methods, Yuna repeated, smiling a little. Is that what we are calling it now? Having methods? You have to call it something, Doan said. The galaxy expects science, reports, data. They do not know what to do with just show up every day and love them unconditionally. Yuna laughed. It was a good sound. 3 years ago, she had been a young researcher taking on an impossible task. Now she was the director of a program that was changing how the entire galaxy thought about predators. But she did not feel like a director. She just felt like herself. Behind her, something large moved in the shadows. The control room was dim, lit only by the glow of the monitors, and most species would not have seen anything. But Yuna felt the presence before she saw it. She always did. Baram stepped into the light. The cub was not a cub anymore. Baram was fully grown now, a creature of terrible beauty. Its black fur absorbed the light like water soaking into cloth. Its spines rose from its back like a crown. Its amber eyes burned in the darkness, bright and knowing. It was enormous. When it stood on all 4 legs, its shoulder was higher than Yuna's head. Its claws could cut through steel. Its teeth could crush bone. Everything about it was designed to kill, and it walked over to Yuna like a dog greeting its owner, pressing its massive head against her chest and making that deep rumbling sound that meant hello. Good morning to you too, Yuna said, scratching behind its ears. Did you sleep well? Mama, Baram said. Its voice was still rough, still strange, but it was clearer now. 3 years of practice had made the words easier. Sleep good. Dream hunt. You dreamed about hunting? Yuna asked. Hunt with you, Baram said. Good hunt, happy. Doan shook his head slowly. I have been watching this for 3 years, and it still amazes me. A Carax that dreams about hunting with its human instead of hunting humans. Baram has never hunted humans, Yuna said. Baram does not want to hunt humans. Isn't that right? Humans small, Baram said seriously. Not good hunt. Better play. Better talk. Doan choked on his tea. A message appeared on one of the monitors. Yuna read it and her expression changed. Not bad. Just thoughtful. The Volanari delegation is here, she said. They want to speak with me. Doan's eyebrows rose. The Volanari? They have not sent anyone in over a year. What do they want? Only one way to find out, Yuna said. She walked through the facility with Baram at her side. Other humans and Carax pairs moved through the hallways, each one a small miracle. A young woman with a juvenile Carax that followed her like a shadow. an older man with an adult Carax that walked beside him like an old friend. Children from the academy school, laughing and playing with cubs that would grow up knowing that humans will not prey. This was what Yuna had dreamed of. Not taming, not controlling, just understanding. Just beings from different worlds learning to live together. The Valinari delegation was waiting in the meeting room. There were 3 of them, tall and thin, their skin flickering with soft light. And at the front was Sovan, the old ambassador who had once called Barham a monster. He looked different now. His skin was brighter, his light steadier. Something had changed in him over the past 3 years. "Ambassador Sovan," Yuna said, bowing slightly. "Welcome back to the facility." "Director Yuna," Sovan replied. His voice was different too, softer. "Thank you for seeing us." Barham moved to stand beside Yuna, its amber eyes fixed on the Valinari. It did not growl or show its teeth. It just watched, calm and patient. Sovan looked at the Carax for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised everyone in the room. He bowed. "I have come to apologize," he said. "To you, and to your companion." Yuna felt her breath catch in her throat. "Apologize? When I first came here, I was angry. I was full of hate. I looked at your Carax and saw only the monsters who had destroyed my people." Sovan's light flickered, cycling through shades of blue and purple. "But I have been watching your work. I have seen the bonds you have created. I have seen Carax learning to speak, to love, to be more than what they were born to be." He paused, struggling with words that his species had not used in 10,000 years. "I was wrong," he said finally. "We were all wrong. The Carax were not born evil. They were born alone. They were raised in a universe that taught them that everything was either predator or prey. But you have shown them another way. You have shown them that there can be something else." Tears were running down Yuna's cheeks. She did not try to hide them. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. Sovan looked at her with eyes that were no longer cold. "Because the Valinari wish to join your program. We wish to learn what you have learned. We wish to help the Carax as you have helped them." His light brightened. "And perhaps, in doing so, we can finally heal ourselves." Yuna could not speak. 3 years ago, she had been a young woman kneeling in front of a scared cub, hoping that she could make a difference. Now the oldest enemies in the galaxy were standing in front of her, asking to learn how to love instead of hate. Barham moved forward. The Valinari tensed, old instincts screaming at them to run. But they did not run. They stood their ground. The Carax stopped in front of Sovan. It was so much larger than the old ambassador. Its claws could have ended his life in a heartbeat. Instead, Barham lowered its head. A bow, a greeting between equals. "Welcome," Barham said in its rough, strange voice. "Welcome, friend." Sovan's light flickered wildly. Colors that had not been seen in Valinari skin for generations. Colors that meant something had broken inside him, and something new was growing in its place. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you." Later that night, after the meetings were finished and the delegations had gone, Yuna sat in her quarters with Barham curled up beside her. The cub was so big now that it took up most of the room, but Yuna did not mind. She leaned against its warm side and looked out the window at the stars. "Mama," Barham said quietly. "Yes?" "Why they hate us before?" Yuna thought about the question for a long time. It was a hard question. There was no easy answer. "Because they were scared," she said finally. "And when people are scared for a long time, sometimes they forget how to be anything else. They forget that the things they are afraid of might be scared too." Barham was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Not scared now?" "Some of them are still scared," Yuna admitted. "Change takes time. But more and more of them are learning. Just like you learned." "Learned love," Barham said. Una smiled. Yes, you learned love. Mama teach. You taught me too, Una said softly. More than you know. Outside the window, the stars burned in the endless darkness of space. Somewhere out there, on 1,000 different worlds, the story of Una and Barum was being told. Children were learning that monsters could become friends. Scientists were rewriting textbooks. Old enemies were finding new ways to understand each other. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, imperfectly, but changing. And it had all started with one human who refused to give up. One human who walked into a room with the most dangerous creature in the universe and saw not a monster, but a scared child who needed someone to stay. Barum made that deep rumbling sound and pressed closer to Una. Love you, Mama, it said. Una wrapped her arms around its neck and held on tight. I love you too, Barum. I always will. Outside, the stars kept burning. And somewhere in the darkness, a universe that had been built on fear was slowly, carefully, learning how to hope. The slave markets of Station Korath smelled like fear and old blood. Una remembered the day she arrived here, 3 years ago, packed into a cargo ship with 40 other humans. They had been taken from a colony transport that strayed too close to Velthary space. Most of the others were sold within the first week. The young ones went to pleasure houses. The strong ones went to mining colonies. The old ones simply disappeared, but Una had something the others did not. She had been a medic in the Earth military before she joined the colony mission. When the Velthary slavers discovered this, they did not sell her to the mines. Instead, they brought her to the beast compounds. The Velthary Empire loved blood sports. On every station, on every colony world, there were arenas where creatures fought and died for the entertainment of the crowds. The beasts that fought in these arenas were not ordinary animals. They were engineered killing machines, grown in labs and modified with the best genetic science the galaxy could offer. They were expensive. They were valuable. And they needed someone to keep them alive between fights. That was Una's job now. She cleaned wounds. She mixed medicines. She learned which chemicals worked on which species. The Velthary veterinarians taught her nothing, so she taught herself. She watched and listened and experimented. Many beasts died under her care in the first year. But slowly, she got better. She learned. Lord Casson, the owner of the compound, noticed her talent. He was a tall Velthary with gray skin and 4 eyes that never seemed to blink. He walked through the compound once a week, inspecting his property. When he looked at Una, she saw nothing in those eyes. No cruelty, no kindness, just calculation. She was a tool to him, nothing more. It was Lord Casson who brought Beak to the compound. The transport ship arrived on a cold station morning. Una heard the commotion from her small sleeping cell. Guards were shouting. Something was howling. The sound made her bones shake. She had never heard anything like it. She found her way to the receiving bay and stopped in shock. The cage was massive, built from reinforced steel 3 inches thick. Inside the cage was a creature from a nightmare. It looked like a wolf, but no wolf had ever grown this large. It was the size of a small shuttle, covered in silver-white fur, matted with blood. Its eyes were golden and wild with rage. Every few seconds, it threw itself against the bars of the cage, and the whole structure groaned under the impact. A Velthary handler approached the cage with a shock prod. The creature lunged at him through the bars, and the handler fell backward with a scream. Fenrir-class predator, someone said behind Una. She turned to see one of the senior handlers, a scarred alien named Torvik. He was watching the creature with something like fear in his eyes. They come from a death world in the Outer Rim. Pack hunters. This one is young, maybe 2 cycles old. They caught him after killing his entire pack. Why would anyone want such a thing? Una asked. Torvik laughed, but there was no humor in it. Lord Casson paid a fortune for this beast. Fenrir-class predators are unbeatable in the arena. Nothing can stand against them. He paused. Of course, nothing can control them either. They fight until they die. That is all they know. Yuna looked at the creature again. It had stopped throwing itself against the cage. Now it was huddled in the corner, and she realized the blood on its fur was its own. It had torn itself open trying to escape. Its golden eyes met hers for a moment, and she saw something beneath the rage. She saw grief. That night, Yuna could not sleep. She kept thinking about those eyes. She had seen that look before in the faces of soldiers who had lost everything. The creature was not just angry. It was broken. She made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, she went to the cage with a bucket of water and clean bandages. The guards thought she was insane. They told her she would die. She ignored them. The creature watched her approach. Its lips pulled back, showing teeth as long as her forearm. A growl rumbled from deep in its chest. Yuna stopped a few feet from the bars. She sat down on the cold floor, and she began to sing Dot. It was a song her grandmother had taught her, back on Earth, back when Earth still felt like home. A lullaby about mountains and rivers and children sleeping safe in their beds. Her voice was small in the vast receiving bay, but she sang anyway. The creature's growl faded. Its ears moved forward. Yuna sang the song 3 times. Then she stood up slowly and pushed the bucket of water through the gap in the bars. The creature did not attack. It watched her with those golden eyes, and something had changed in them. She came back the next day, and the day after that. She brought water, then food, then medicine for its wounds. The guards stopped trying to stop her. They simply watched and waited for her to die. But she did not die on the 7th day. The creature let her enter the cage on the 14th day. It let her touch its wounds on the 30th day. It laid its massive head in her lap while she cleaned a gash on its shoulder. You need a name, Yuna said softly. I cannot keep calling you creature. She thought for a moment. The Beak. I will call you Beak. It means white in my language. For your beautiful fur. The creature made a sound. It was low and rough, like stones grinding together. But the translation implant in Yuna's ear picked up meaning in the sound. Mother.yuna froze. What did you say? Mother. The sound came again. You. Mother. Tears filled Yuna's eyes. She wrapped her arms around the creature's massive neck and held on tight. Yes, she whispered. Yes, my son. I am here. From that day forward, everything was different. Beak fought in the arena for the first time 2 months later. Lord Casson had expected him to die, as all Fenrir-class predators eventually died. But Beak did not fight like other Fenrir. He did not throw himself blindly at his enemies. He watched. He waited. He struck with precision. He won. He won the next fight too. And the next. 12 matches, 12 victories. Lord Casson was delighted. His investment was paying off beyond his wildest dreams. He allowed Yuna special privileges. Better food. A larger cell. More time with her beast. He did not understand what was really happening. He saw a valuable animal performing well. He did not see a mother teaching her son. He did not see the bond growing stronger every day. He did not see the way Beak looked at Yuna when she entered his enclosure, like she was the only light in his dark world. He did not understand that he was not Beak's master. Yuna was, and that misunderstanding would soon cost him everything.